I'm leaving you. I already sold the beach house, and I'm starting fresh with my trainer, she said, laughing like it was some kind of joke. I kept my voice calm. Okay, I said. I get it. Name's George Whitaker. I'm 52, and for over 2 decades I've worked as a commercial property negotiator based out of Jacksonville, Florida. My job's all about spotting the little things other people overlook. Contracts, clauses, the kind of details that make or break deals. Turns out I should have looked at my own marriage with the same kind of care. But by the time I did, the damage was already done. The call came in on a Thursday. I was over in Brussels, wrapping up a deal for a big warehouse project. 4th day into a trip, thousands of miles from home. That's when Vanessa decided it was time to blow up our 15-year marriage. Kyle and I need a new beginning, she went on, like she was pitching me a sales idea. We got a great price on the beach house. The buyer's moving in next week. Kyle Bennett, her personal trainer for the past year and a half. He's 35, drives a sports car that costs more than he makes in a year, and once asked me how much my watch cost like we were at a pawn shop. I didn't yell, didn't throw my phone or cuss her out. I just asked one thing. When did the sale close? Yesterday, she said, like she was expecting me to fall apart. You can stay at the Marriott when you get back, since you're always on the road anyway. I hung up. Then I sat there at the hotel desk for almost an hour, staring out at the skyline. Rain started coming down outside. Folks were rushing into shops and cafes with umbrellas in hand. Meanwhile, I opened my laptop and sent 2 emails, one to Monica Harrison, my title agent for the past 10 years, and another to Brian Eldridge, the lawyer I've trusted longer than I knew Vanessa. Subject line: urgent, fraudulent property sale attempt. Vanessa had no clue who she was dealing with. She thought she knew me. Thought I'd roll over and let her take what she wanted just because I was always the calm one. What she didn't know, or forgot, is I've spent 23 years making sure folks don't get walked over in business. I don't gamble with what's mine. I met Vanessa back in Orlando at a real estate convention. She was sharp, dressed well, smart, and didn't take flack from anyone. She worked in high-end property management. I liked her right away. Within a year, we were married. Courthouse ceremony, just a handful of family. We bought the beach house in Amelia Island 3 years later. For bedrooms, big porch, ocean view. Cost me everything I had saved, and then some. Took out a big mortgage. I put in the sweat, new siding, redid the kitchen, replaced the rotten deck boards, while she handled the decorating and hosted get-togethers. She raised her wine glass on that first night and said, "This is our forever place." And I believed her. It worked for a while. She quit her job to start an interior design gig, and sometimes she'd tag along on my overseas work trips. We'd turn business into little vacations. Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona. Thought we were doing okay. But 2 years ago, something started to shift. She stopped asking about my work. Stopped coming on trips. Her texts got real short. Good luck, safe flight, stuff like that. No more miss you. No more can't wait till you're home. Then came the gym. 5 days a week, always training with Kyle. I didn't think much of it at first. I even supported her, proud she was staying fit. But then the credit card charges started piling up. Fancy dinners, spa retreats, things I wasn't invited to with people I'd never met. I didn't go all detective on her. No GPS trackers or private eyes. I just watched. Took notes. Waited. 11 months ago, I made my move. Quietly, I moved the beach house into a living trust. We were signing a bunch of refinancing papers for a different property, and she didn't even glance at what she was signing, too busy texting. This protects us both, I told her. Not a complete lie. It did protect the house, just not in the way she thought. After sending those emails from Brussels, I took out the original deed. I always travel with important documents. Habit from an old deal gone bad early in my career. That deed clearly listed the house as property of the George Whitaker Living Trust. I'm the sole trustee. That means Vanessa couldn't legally sell it. Not a square foot. Funny thing is, she used to make fun of how I'd read every contract line by line. Life's too short for fine print, she'd joke. Well, the fine print just saved my house. I called Brian as I walked through Grand Place, downtown Brussels. Told him what had happened. She can't sell what she doesn't own, he said. The buyer has no claim. And if she moved forward knowing she didn't own it, that's fraud. I didn't want to press charges. I wasn't out for revenge. I just wanted to keep my home. Brian called the county recorder's office and flagged the property. Also warned all the local title companies. That deal would never go through. After the call, I didn't head back to the hotel right away. I found a small cafe and sat there drinking coffee, watching people pass by. Tourists, locals, folks just living their lives. 15 years of marriage boiled down to a phone call and a fake sale. What got to me most wasn't even the affair. It was how easy she made it sound. The coldness in her laugh. Like none of it mattered. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a setback. It was a wake-up call. And I was wide awake now. I told my client I had a family emergency and needed to head home right away. Then I booked the next available flight to Florida. On that 9-hour flight back across the Atlantic, I didn't touch a movie or flip through a report. Just sat there in silence, thinking. There was a strange calm that settled in. The same feeling I've had during high-stakes negotiations when I finally saw the leverage. This time, the negotiation was personal. I'd spent 23 years spotting flaws in contracts, hidden risks, and back-end loopholes others missed. Now, for the first time, I was using those skills for myself. Not out of spite, not even out of anger. It was about balance, about setting things right. When the plane touched down in Jacksonville, I already knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to yell or beg or argue. That part of the relationship was long dead. What I would do was enforce the contracts she signed without bothering to read. And in real estate, that's all that matters. Not intentions, not promises, just signatures. I didn't tell Vanessa I was coming back early. Just rented a car and headed straight for Amelia Island. It was a little past noon on a Saturday when I pulled into our driveway. There was a black Mercedes convertible parked in my spot, one I didn't recognize. Must have been Kyle's. The front door was unlocked. From the kitchen, I heard two voices, hers and a man's, laughing, talking about changes they were planning. The wall between the kitchen and the dining room should go first, he was saying. Open concept is a must for beach properties. I walked in quietly, set my suitcase down, and made my way to the voices. Vanessa was in a summer dress I didn't recognize, champagne in hand, leaning against the kitchen island. Kyle stood behind her, pointing at something on a tablet with his arms slung casually around her waist. They both looked up. Vanessa's smile wobbled, just for a second, before she snapped it back into place. "George," she said, trying to sound surprised. "You're home early. I thought you weren't coming back until Monday." "Looks like plans changed," I replied, my eyes shifting to Kyle, who had the sense to drop his arm from around my wife. "This is awkward," he said, with a weak chuckle. "I'll just head out." "No," I said calmly. "I'd rather you stay. What I'm about to say affects you too." Vanessa's smile flattened. She crossed her arms. "Let's not make this harder than it needs to be, George. I've been unhappy for years. We both deserve to move on." I nodded. "That's why I've already talked to my lawyer. About the fraudulent property sale you tried to push through." Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" I opened my briefcase, pulled out the documents, and laid them on the counter. "The beach house. It's not yours to sell, Vanessa. Hasn't been for nearly a year." Kyle looked puzzled. "You told me the sale was final," he said to her. "It is," she shot back, but the doubt had started creeping in. "Check the deed," I said. "Property's owned by the George Whitaker Living Trust. You signed the transfer last May, remember? You were too busy texting during the refinance paperwork to notice." She snatched the documents and started scanning them, eyes darting. "This can't be right," she whispered. "It's right," I said. "Legally binding. Which means the sale you initiated. It's null. The buyer's already been notified." Kyle's confidence vanished. "I'll wait in the car," he mumbled, and made his exit. Vanessa didn't waste time shifting gears. The shock gave way to anger. "You tricked me," she snapped. "No," I said. "I protected what was mine. That's what I do for a living, Vanessa. You chose not to read what you signed. That's not trickery. That's on you." She softened her tone then, tried the guilt card. "Let's be reasonable, George. We can split the proceeds. No need for lawyers." "There are already lawyers involved," I replied. "And the buyers are considering legal action for being misled into buying a house from someone who didn't own it." "You wouldn't press charges," she whispered. "I'm not pressing anything," I said. "I'm just enforcing a contract. What happens next? That's your choice." She picked up her phone and dialed. "I'm calling my sister's lawyer. You won't get away with this." "You should," I nodded. "And just so we're clear, I'll be staying at the Hilton tonight. Give you time to pack. But on Monday, I'm moving back in. This house isn't being sold. As I walked to the door, she shouted behind me, "This isn't over, George." I turned back once. She was still standing in the kitchen, champagne glass shaking in her hand, in the home we'd built together. "Actually, Vanessa," I said, "I think it is." The next morning, I met Brian at his office. Sunday, but he made time. The place was quiet, his desk covered in documents. He looked tired, but focused. "There's more," he said. After our call, I had my guy dig deeper. He handed me a folder. Inside were bank records, credit card statements, and documents I'd never seen. "Vanessa's been busy," Brian continued. "She opened a separate account last year. Transferred about $170,000 from your joint savings. That was most of our emergency cash." My stomach dropped. "And this," he said, sliding over another page, "is paperwork for a retail lease in Savannah. Both her name and Kyle Bennett's. They're opening a fitness boutique. Signed 3 months ago." I stared at the page. This wasn't just cheating. It was calculated. Planned. They'd been building toward this for a long time. She wasn't just trying to sell the house to cut ties. I muttered. She needed the money for this business. Brian nodded. "And one more thing. The buyer? Shell Company. Owner is Kyle's brother, Jason Bennett. They weren't just running off together. They were trying to snag the beach house below market and flip it after pushing me into a corner." I sat there for a while, going over it all in my head. The steady calm I'd carried since Brussels hardened into something stronger, a kind of resolve. "What are my options?" I asked. "Legally," Brian said, "you're solid. The trust protects the house. We can freeze joint accounts to stop more transfers. The cash she already moved? That's harder. Florida's an equitable distribution state. She might claim it was her half. And the attempted sale?" He leaned forward. "Fraud. Could be charged criminally. Grand theft? Possibly. But I'm guessing jail time's not what you're after." He was right. I didn't want to ruin her life. Just protect mine. "Here's my proposal," he said, sliding over another document. "We send a settlement offer. She returns 60% of the money, waives any claim to the house. You waive any stake in her new business. No charges. Clean break. And if she says no, then we go the other route. Full legal action. Court. Charges. Everything." I nodded slowly. "Send the offer. But be ready for court." On my way out, my phone buzzed. Text from Vanessa. "My lawyer says you're bluffing. Trust doesn't matter. House is joint. See you in court." I showed Brian. He shook his head. "She's being misled," he said. "The trust is airtight. We'll file everything first thing tomorrow." The rest of Sunday, I sat in my hotel room, flipping through financials, bank transfers, and trust documents. With each page, her betrayal became clearer, and my determination grew stronger. This wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about standing up to someone who thought she could erase 2 decades of hard work with a phone call and a smile. It was just past 2 in the afternoon when I pulled into the driveway of the beach house. Vanessa's car was gone, but the black Mercedes, Kyle's, was still parked out front. I let myself in with my key. Half expected the locks might have been changed already, but they hadn't been. Inside, Kyle was in the living room, stuffing clothes into a duffel bag. He froze when he saw me walk in. "I was just grabbing my stuff," he said quickly, trying to sound casual. I didn't say anything. Just stood there in the doorway, arms crossed. "Look, man," he started, voice shaky. "This wasn't personal. Vanessa told me the marriage had been over for years before I came along." I kept my voice level. "Where is she?" He looked down. "At her sister's. She's upset. Thinks you're trying to ruin her." I couldn't help but smile a little at the irony. "Is that what she told you? That I'm the bad guy?" He shrugged, eyes darting away. "She said you were controlling, that you kept her stuck here while you traveled the world. And the business you two were launching with the proceeds from selling my home. Was that part of the plan too?" His silence was all the confirmation I needed. Brian had been right. "I figured," I said. "You can let Vanessa know the settlement offer is waiting at Brian Eldridge's office. She has 48 hours to sign it. If not, we proceed to court and possibly criminal charges." He blinked. "Criminal? Trying to sell a property she doesn't legally own. Starting a business with money siphoned from joint accounts. Fraud. You can take your pick." Kyle snatched up his bag and headed toward the door. I stepped aside and let him pass. "One more thing," I added as he reached the front steps. "The buyer, Jason Bennett. That's your brother, right?" He hesitated, then nodded once. Tell him if he wants to avoid being dragged into this as a co-conspirator, he needs to withdraw his offer on the house. Today. Kyle didn't answer. Just got in the Mercedes and drove off. Less than an hour later, Brian called me. Jason Bennett had pulled his offer. The beach house sale was officially dead. That evening, I changed the locks, shut down the old alarm system, and installed a new one, cameras and all. Then I ordered takeout from the seafood spot Vanessa and I used to go to, and sat out on the deck while the sun dropped into the Atlantic. The waves rolled in steady and smooth. They didn't care about lawyers or betrayal or what someone thought they deserved. The tide just did what it always did, came and went. Tomorrow would be a fresh round of paperwork and posturing. But for tonight, I sat in the home that was still mine. Not happy, exactly, but solid. Steady. Certain. 3 weeks later, we all sat around a polished conference table in Brian's office. Vanessa across from me, her attorney at her side. She hadn't said a word to me since the day I walked in on her and Kyle. All of her communication had come through letters and legal threats, none of which had held up to Brian's scrutiny. This meeting had been set as a pre-trial hearing, but none of us really expected it to go that far. The facts were too clear. Before we begin, Brian said smoothly, pulling out 3 documents. I'd like to submit a few things for the record. He slid them across the table. The deed to the living trust, a full set of bank records showing Vanessa's money transfers, and a signed statement from Jason Bennett admitting he was part of a scheme to buy the house at a reduced price through deception. Vanessa's attorney scanned the documents. His posture changed as he flipped through the affidavit. He leaned over to whisper to her. She didn't say anything, but the color drained from her face. We're prepared to settle, the lawyer said finally. Brian nodded. Here are the terms. Vanessa returns $100,000 of the withdrawn funds. She waives all claims to the beach house and any properties in the trust. George waives any interest in her business and agrees not to pursue criminal charges. Vanessa finally spoke. Her voice was low but cold. And if I refuse? Brian didn't blink. Then we file this evidence with the district attorney. Fraud involving more than $100,000 is a serious offense in this state. Her attorney touched her arm again. We need a moment, he said. They left the room. 17 minutes later, they came back. Vanessa still wouldn't look at me. We'll accept the terms, her lawyer said. I didn't respond. Just signed where Brian pointed. Watched her do the same. That signature, after 15 years of tax returns, birthday cards, vacation forms, looked tired. And just like that, it was over. 6 months passed. One morning, I stood out on the deck of the beach house with a hot cup of coffee, watching the sun climb up out of the water. The place looked different now. I'd put in a new kitchen, new siding that could handle the salt air, storm windows all around. The old stuff was gone, the chipped paint, the sagging porch boards, and in its place was something stronger. Clean. Simple. I'd heard from mutual friends that Vanessa and Kyle went through with the fitness studio in Savannah, scaled down from what they'd originally planned. Last I heard, the business was struggling. I didn't feel good about that. I didn't feel bad, either. Just detached. It was what it was. The divorce was final 3 months ago. She returned the funds, and I used most of it to buy a commercial property back in Jacksonville. Small building, reliable tenants, steady return. No drama. Just income. My phone rang. Monica Harrison, my title agent. Just checking in, she said cheerfully. How's the beach house holding up? Better every day, I told her, watching a pair of pelicans cruise low over the waves. Thanks again for helping with the trust. That saved me. That's what I'm here for, she said. Actually, I have another opportunity you might like. Similar to what we did before, commercial, well-shielded, great long-term yield. Send it over, I said. I'm listening. After we hung up, I stayed on the deck for a while longer. The tide kept rolling in, the way it always had. Calm, predictable, honest. Then I went inside to start my day. The house. It was just wood and paint and steel. But it was mine. No one could take that away again. And sometimes, that's enough.